Hello Space Cowboys, and may I present the Milky Way. Ba, 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 ba. Yes, we are sitting here atop the Milky Way, 3,000 light years above the core. This is what you can achieve if you are a master explorer. I myself am only a pathfinder, but that means nothing. I am the greatest explorer that ever lived, and in this video I intend to share all my knowledge with you. Yes, just like all my quick guides, this is going to be completely and utterly chock full of information, covering every possible detail you need to know about exploring. And it's going to be fun, concise, and to the point. Now, there are many reasons to explore. Some of you want money, some of you want to spread your name across the stars. The silly names are the best, obviously. And some of you just want to see the most amazing things that you could possibly see, like these. I'm going to help all of you in this one video. Computer, why do we explore?
I don't know about you, but I am trying to find the furthest possible star to leave you at, so I'll never have to see, hear or smell you again.
Smell me? I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, I may never make it back, so it's best I get this video done now. So, let's begin. Okay, the first thing you need to do is get an exploration vessel and outfit it so it has the maximum possible jump range and a few safety precautions. I've got a video covering that, and you can click the link now to access that video. The ASP is currently the best exploration vessel, but it isn't cheap, and if you're starting out there are other options. You can Google for those, and there is some fun in figuring out how to get the best possible range on smaller ships. And there are some people that have crossed the galaxy and nothing but a sidewinder, so I will leave that to you. Okay, the two dedicated exploration modules are the Advanced Discovery Scanner and the Detailed Surface Scanner. You are likely going to want both, although you can do without them. The Advanced Discovery Scanner is the most expensive scanner at 1.5 million credits, and it can scan an entire system in one go and will reveal every object in that system. The cheaper ones have a limited range. The Detailed Surface Scanner gives you additional credits for your scans. I'll go through that shortly. Okay, the first thing to do on any exploration expedition is to plot a route. So here I'm going to talk you through some of the basics about plotting a route. You start with the navigation tab. Here you can search for a system if you have one in mind and are able to type. And when you press enter, it will find that system for you. You may just want to search the galaxy map for your route and look for something interesting. That's what a lot of people do. Like, for example, here's a nebula, and you can just you can locate a star inside that nebula and select it manually. I'm sure you know how to do that. Another thing is that there are two different types of routes, economical and fastest routes. You want to select fastest routes because this will make sure each jump is the longest possible jump so that you get the shortest travel time to your destination. Economical routes are saved for saving fuel because it will pick the deliberately shorter jumps, and shorter jumps use much less fuel than longer jumps, and this way you can cover a lot more ground. You can also manually select the length of the jump range for each jump. You can turn this down, for example, if you have a wing member who has a shorter jump range, or if you want to conserve fuel. Now you need to know about the View tab. It has two modes, Realistic and Map. Realistic displays stars in a nice fancy way that gives you a rough guide to how they look. The Map tab lets you filter, and for explorers you want to filter by star class. Now, you need to know which stars are scoopable. These are everything from O to M. There's an acronym for that. O, be a fine girl, kiss me, or guy, if that's your inclination. And so I generally, when I'm exploring, make sure these are highlighted and no others, so I know that everything along my route is scoopable or not. If ever you get stuck with very little fuel at a non-scoopable star, you can filter by these types and look for the very closest star, and you can probably reach it if you're lucky. When you're exploring, you want to be finding stars that are rare because they're worth a lot more money and they're more interesting. For example, here I've got non-sequence stars, Wolf-Rayet stars, carbon stars and white dwarf stars highlighted, and here we see a field that contains loads of these. For example, if we go to the info tab, we can see this is a DC, which I believe is a white dwarf, could be wrong. It's white. Here is a neutron star, and these grey ones will also be black holes. And also, I believe I spotted a carbon star somewhere there a second ago. Where did it go? There it is. The yellow ones are carbon stars. This is a MS. It's an S-type star, which is a bit lower than a carbon star, but it's the M variant, which puts it slightly closer to a carbon star. If you want, you should Google stellar classification. It's very interesting. Other S stars are O-type stars, which there are a few of in here as well. But yes, that is an extremely dense region of very, very rich stars. If you scan these, if you go through here, you'll come back a multi-millionaire. But as you can see, it's very far from home. We are going to go through which types of planets are the best to scan in terms of credits, but for now I'm going to tell you which star types are most likely to contain them, and those are the ones most similar to our Sun, which is a G-type. So the F and the K. The O, B and A are usually too young, and the M, L, T and Y are usually too cold, or also too young to have any types of planets that are interesting. So yeah, you want to filter by these three when looking for good places to find Earth worlds and such. If you're looking for interesting stars, and not necessarily stars that have a lot of expensive data, then your best types are non-sequence, O, B and A. Well, not really A. F, G and K because of the fact that they have those expensive worlds, which are always interesting. Protostars, and the bottom three. These are the ones that are going to be the most interesting. Another way of finding interesting stars is by going to realistic mode. Here you can see that the stars are represented also by size. So for example here, we have a few giants. And other weird things will pop up in the realistic mode, such as planetary nebula, nebulae, and all kinds of weird stuff. And black holes will come across as black. Makes them easy to find. Another way of finding interesting and fascinating systems is by going to the info tab when you've highlighted the star. This will tell you how many stars and what classification they are. Here we can see there's 5 different stars which are separated by commas. The other numbers are to do with their stellar class, which you can look up. Here we can see that there's 2 Bs and 3 Os. This is probably going to be a very interesting system because it has a white supergiant and many other stars, so it may have some very interesting orbits and lots of planets. The last tip I'll give you on finding interesting systems is by first deselecting everything so that you can more clearly see these fuzzy dots. Can you see them? They're everywhere and they're permanent on the galaxy map. If you then zoom in on one and go to realistic, you'll be able to see what it is. And if it's something interesting like this B, I believe, yes, it's a B star, and it's got a fuzzy dot, it's almost certainly going to be something spectacular there. Not necessarily always, but it's worth going there, although you'll probably find it's already been explored. One last thing you need to know about the galaxy map is that your route planner can only plot courses of up to 1,000 light years. So if you want to go somewhere very far away, you're going to have to do it in a sequence of stages, each one 1,000 light years long, and I will leave it to you to be as creative as possible by planning those stages. You want to bear in mind that you want to see interesting things along the way, and you also want to try and pick a route that probably no one else has picked. Go random, go out a bit first, go in the opposite direction, go above, go below, come from a weird angle. You're less likely to run into other people who've already been there, and then you can get your firsts. Okay, so I've plotted my route. It's 1,000 light years long. As you can see, my route finder hasn't got many options because I'm so high up and the stars are so spread out, and it's quite snaking, but that doesn't matter. I checked to see how many jumps there are, 36. It's a good idea to keep an eye on that, just to keep morale high and see how your progress is doing. I make sure I've got enough fuel, which is a very good habit to check before each jump. I make sure I'm moving because I'm not in Super Cruise, and I initiate my frameshift drive. Let's go. I'm going to teach you the explorer's routine. These are all the steps you need to do and get into a habit of in terms of jumping so that you keep safe, you keep efficient, and you make the most out of your time. So, as soon as that initiates, I'll dial back my throttle to 0. I want to make sure I am not moving when I hit the next system. Otherwise, I'm going to crash into the star. Wow! And our first star is a T-Towery. How amazing is that? Okay, as soon as I arrive, I begin honking my... What? Yeah, it wasn't enabled. How stupid is that? Okay, as soon as I arrive, normally, if I wasn't so stupid, I would begin by honking my discovery scanner. This works even in Super Cruise. You just need to make sure you've assigned it to a fire group. Okay? Good. It has now revealed everything in the system, which I can now check. I will now check for interesting stars to scan. Wow, what a system this is. If it hasn't already been discovered, I might scan it, but this one has, and it's not worth enough money, and I'm in a rush. If you're not in a rush, if you want to be that kind of explorer that's got OCD and explores it, and scans everything, I mean, then be my guest. But I'm gonna leave. Okay. Now, our fuel is still pretty good. The key to time efficiency is doing as many jumps as you can before fueling up again. When you've got a really good exploration ship like this, you can be extremely confident that you're never going to run out of fuel, because you're always going to be very close to a scoopable star. And anything under 10 light years on my ship is barely even a pixel on the fuel gauge. So let's try that routine one more time. Throttle back to 0. Enjoy witch space. Listen for babies screaming. Honk the ADS immediately. Face the star if you want to scan it. And as soon as it becomes targetable, target it. And let's get our first scan. Check the system map. There's not anything interesting. Or if there's nothing already discovered, then we can move on. Don't start accelerating just yet. Now you can hit the throttle when you're slightly facing away from it and point to the next target. But you'll notice we are no longer targeting the next system, are we? That is because we selected the star. Now, there is a key that you can set to automatically select the next system in route. It is found in the targeting section, and it is target next system en route. It's a good idea to make sure you have that, because you'll be using it a lot. So I've got it set to this. I'm now targeting it. My frameshift drive is cooled, and I'm ready for the next jump. Let's go!
Frameshift drive charging.
If you're going for speed, then watch and learn. This is how you do it as fast as humanly possible. Scanning, tilting, pointing away, waiting for frameshift drive to cool down, initiating charge, checking the system map before we go. Nothing interesting. Aligning, and off we go. If you do it this fast, you cover 1,000 light years in under half an hour. That includes fuel scooping if you've got a good fuel scoop. If you've got a bad fuel scoop, it might take longer, but I'm assuming you have a good one. And yes, half an hour for 1,000 light years is pretty good, although you're not going to get the most scans. Okay, I think now is as good a time as ever to go through the basics of fuel scooping. Now, fuel scooping works on basic principles. You need to get into the corona. You want to throttle up a bit and then slow down. You need to know what the limit of your fuel scoop is, and you want to get just to it and no further. So mine is 752, and with practice I can get about that close to it and stop. Now, this is dangerous, okay? If you get any closer than this, you will overheat. Overheating is bad, and in the next section I'm going to go through all the different dangers you need to watch out for while exploring. Anyway, if you want to be efficient, you will start facing away and moving away at the right, perfect amount of time so that your fuel scooping finishes as you are clear. Do not initiate your frameshift drive while you can still see that fuel scoop. Now you can though, because at this distance, if you're moving that is, you will be safe. Okay? That is how you efficiently fuel scoop while exploring. Okay, now I'm going to go through some of the dangers that come with exploring. The first is obviously pirates, although that depends on how close you are. You will run into pirates up to about 500 light years outside of inhabited space. You can see where inhabited space ends by filtering for allegiance and seeing where the dots kind of fade away. So this seems to be the edge here, and they will be on all other sides as well. Once you're about 500 light seconds out there, you do not have to worry about pirates anymore. Now, while there may be no pirates out here in space, you still need to be very careful because you can destroy your ship in several ways. Now, while there's no way that you can destroy your ship in one go, there are still a few things that you can do that can cause serious damage. I'll go through them now. The first danger is overheating. Now, you have a temperature percentage at the top left of your scanner, and if that goes above 100, then you will start taking damage to your modules, and if it goes even higher, you'll start taking damage to your hull. The damage can accelerate quite hard, and if you're in a hot situation, you need to have a heatsink ready to deploy at any moment. Just make sure you don't get too close to stars when you're scooping. Bear in mind that dwarf stars are hotter than they look. Bear in mind that if you get too close to a really big star and your temperature has gone too high, you're not going to be able to get away fast enough, because in supercruise you use a lot of heat, and if you're stuck in the gravity well of a star, you're not moving very fast. So that heat is just going to keep building up and building up as you're slowly trying to climb your way out. You can very easily die like that. Just remember that you have a reboot repair option if you get completely destroyed, but it only gives you 1% on all your modules. It's not good. Also, bear in mind that if your life support goes, you only have about 7 minutes depending on which life support you have. So out here, that is it. It's over. Having an AFM, an auto field maintenance unit, is useful, although it won't help in all situations, and it can't fix your hull. But bear it in mind. But heatsink launchers are a must. The next danger while exploring is making sure you do not crash into planets at high speed in supercruise. If you do so, then you risk damaging your canopy, and once your canopy goes, you die because your air will run out. So, what you need to make sure you never do is go into a planet at high speed. The lowest speed that you can go into a planet and emergency drop is less than 1 megameter per second. So obviously right now I'm going way too fast. If I crashed into that, that would be bad. You also have to make sure you do not crash into ring systems around planets, because they have the same effect.
Canopy compromised.
And sometimes they are very hard to see. Two of the most dangerous star types that you can suffer damage from are white dwarfs and neutron stars. They are deceptively small and extremely hot, and their temperature gradient is massive. If you get so close as to drop out of supercruise, you are in desperate trouble. It's going to be very hard to get away. Also, as soon as you get into that system, if you go even slightly forward, even slightly, you're going to drop out. So yeah, you want to be very careful around those, and if I were you, I would turn away from them as soon as you get into that system. And now we move on to the art of scanning.
Scanning.
What?
Scans indicate that the pilot is an idiot.
Oh, very funny. Always the joker, aren't you? Okay, so the first thing you want to work out is what are the ideal objects worth scanning. And I've given a link in the description to a nice diagram that basically explains all that, so I am not going to explain it. You should take a look. But if you want it as a brief summary, you want to scan Earth worlds, you want to scan ammonia worlds, you want to scan anything that's terraformable, including water worlds. If they're close, you want to scan metal worlds, and if they are also close, you should want to scan gas giants, because they can be worth quite a bit of money. Honking your ADS is another great thing to do, because usually several objects will come up. In this case there were about 35s, so just from honking the ADS, even if I'm just passing through the system, that's going to make me about 30,000 credits. So let's take a look at the system map. Right, here we have a whole bunch of planets, and you will start to recognize the symbols for each one. Among all the planets here are different things that are worth different values. That could potentially be a water world, and you'll spot that immediately after you get practice. These are all metal worlds. Some of them could be metal rich, which is good. That's an ice world, obviously, as you can see straight away when you get used to it, and that is not worth anything at all, so you don't want to scan that. As for gas giants, the brown ones are very likely to have some kind of life, which gives them a massive bonus as well. So that's great, but if they're not brown, you don't want to bother scanning them. Some of the blue ones could be water worlds, water gas giants. I don't know what the exact term is, but they can be worth a bit of money as well. The next stage is working out how to find them. So say you want to scan this one, okay? Right now, after honking your ADS, you do see that everything's unexplored. So how do you locate it? Okay, there's a number of tricks you can employ. So, first things first, this one's easy because it has a moon. We're right by the star, so even that trick is not needed because everything comes in order, give or take. You want to go through, rule out all of the asteroid fields, and then count the planets. So it's the 4th planet, oops, which makes it this one. If for some reason you're in the wrong place, then you can spot that this one has a moon. There are 2 that have moons, but if they had, say, different amounts of moons, and you know that your one has 1 and the rest all have 2 and above, then you know that it's going to be that one. That's a good trick to finding the right one. Another way, for example, in this case, these 2 planets are actually in a binary pair, which means that they are going to have almost exactly the same distance no matter where you are in the system. So that's another way of finding those 2. So counting the moons and looking at the distances is one trick. If you're way out, away from the star, then you're going to want to use the orbit lines as your guide. You move far away, tangential to the orbital plane of the planets, and then you count the orbits. So if it's the 5th planet, then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there you go. The only problem is that binary pairs, like these 2, don't show up with an orbit line. So you're going to have to factor that in when you're counting. So, for example, that is actually the 5th planet. Those 2 count as 2, that counts as 3, that counts as 4, and that counts as 5. Got it? Good. Just remember you have to be moving for the orbit lines to stay fixed like this. If you stop, they fade away. Bear in mind that there are rumours that when version 1.3 is out, Power Play, you'll be able to actually select unknown objects directly from the system map. So this fun challenge of working out which is which is gonna disappear, unfortunately. Now, the skill to quick and efficient scanning, if you are in a rush or you're trying to get as much money as possible, is to not get too close. You'll learn the art of being able to scan something at the exact right distance. You're going to want to stop just as the scanning range begins. So usually for a rock planet, it's around this distance. It can be anything from, like, say 50 to 150. So I've gone quite a bit too close, but it doesn't matter. This is pretty much far enough. The reason I'm saying that is because when you get close, as I'm sure you've noticed, your speed drops right down. If you get too close, it's going to take you an additional minute or 2 just to get away to the next one, even though it takes longer to scan from further away. So this is how you quickly and efficiently scan a system. Another good tip about scanning is that you can combine several tasks together. So while you're field scooping, you can be scanning the main star, which is always good. You can also scan any planets that are within scanning range while you're field scooping, which is always great as well. When you're scanning all the moons of a gas giant, the best thing to do is to park somewhere right by the gas giant, and you should be able to reach all of them. This one doesn't have any, but from here I would be able to probably reach all of its moons. Just remember that when you're scanning, you don't want to overshoot the planet. The trick to not doing that is making sure that your throttle goes down into the middle of the blue zone before or when the timer hits 6 seconds. If it goes under that, you're going to overshoot. So, wait for the 6, 7, okay. 7's also good, but now I'm not going to overshoot. I will be able to finish the scan completely and still get close. If you do overshoot, then the best thing to do is to just circle the planet in a wide arc until that second goes down to 6 again, and then you go back into the middle of the blue zone. Just remember one thing: the galaxy is full of the most amazing wonders you could possibly imagine. Just when you think you've seen it all, it throws up something completely unexpected and completely dazzling. Never ever think that you've seen it all. It never gets boring. There is so much to see. It is probably the most rewarding profession there is. Okay, here we are at a black hole, which is behind me because I don't want to show you what it looks like. You've got to find that for yourself. And in front of me is a nebula. Welcome to the beauty of the galaxy, which you will soon be exploring yourself. There's a couple more things I want to mention. One is that if you do die, you will lose all of your data, so you want to avoid that at all costs. This is probably the most exciting part of the game because it is very serious when you die, especially on a huge trip like I've just done with well over 2,000 jumps. Secondly, when you do sell your data, pick wisely who you sell it to. If you sell 5.5 million credits worth of data to a faction, you become allied with them, a sub-faction that is, and this can go greatly towards ranking up. There's plenty of threads about that, and I've even made some videos. Last but not least, if you do change ships before you sell your data, don't worry, it will continue with you. Anyway, I think that's it. Computer? Did I leave anything out?
Yes. You forgot to tell them that you are an idiot and they shouldn't listen to a word you say.
Very funny. Anyway, I'm going to jump into this nebula now. You can't come with. You have to go and find your own cool stuff. Go out there, discover the universe, and so long, space cowboys!